Okay, so hello everyone, and I'm delighted today to be joined by Michael Hirst, who is immediate past chair of the BVEP and our guru, as everybody knows, on all things government. Now, it's so great, isn't it, Michael, that COVID restrictions are finally, it seems, lifting, and associations and those, of course, that for us that means PCOs, venues, destinations and suppliers. We're so looking forward to delivering international congresses again in person across the UK, of course. Focusing on Brexit then, likely there are implications and key challenges our ABCO members will need to consider that they haven't had to consider before. Isn't that right?
Well, I mean, first of all, I share your optimism about being back in the workplace and having some live meetings, lots of them, I hope. Although I think there will be some structural changes, and it's great that we've got the agility and flexibility within the industry to come up with some really innovative solutions as we move forward into whatever this new norm is going to be. I would actually also like to say to your members that I think they should remain cautious. Providing a safe and secure environment is critical as we move into this next chapter. We've done an enormous amount of work in the industry to ensure that that is the case. And I think the appeal of the UK as a destination will be actually enhanced by the fact that the UK has actually come out of COVID restrictions fast and is seen generally as a place where risk assessed environments are the name of the game. So it should help us in terms of marketing ourselves overseas as we encourage more international visitors back to the UK. Of course, we're waiting earnestly for the restrictions, the remaining restrictions on international travel to be lifted. There are less restrictions than there were even 2 weeks ago, but hopefully the requirement to test when you come to the UK will be relaxed. Although I still see the vaccine certification being in place in terms of wanting to know not only that you've had 2 vaccines, but you've had the booster. And as we now know that the government has actually added the booster to your NHS app. And
I have one.
You have one, great. I have one too. And our international visitors will have their own proof of that. And I do know that a lot of event organizers are continuing to ask for some proof of vaccination or pre-event testing. The Office of National Statistics suggested that 15% more people are likely to come to an event if they know that everybody at that event is protected. So that's just an introduction. From a Brexit point of view, of course, we're entering uncharted waters because we haven't actually traded in a Brexit environment. We were locked down almost as soon as we left the EU. I don't know whether it was anything to do with the negotiations or part of the negotiations, but we're now going to find out whether we are as attractive to our EU customers as we were before when we were in the EU. Let's make things very easy for people to understand. We've traded with the rest of the world and we've welcomed North Americans and Asians and Africans to our conferences and meetings here in the UK. EU citizens are now part of that cohort. So it's no different to what people have been doing when they have been welcoming visitors from further afield. So EU visitors now require the same requirements as people from all over the rest of the world. So it's not as if we haven't sort of come across the various requirements and regulations. It's only that everybody's the same now rather than the EU having preference in terms of entry rights, etc.
So thinking then, and I share your thoughts on making sure that the UK is as attractive as any other country in terms of attracting in international association congress business. And so as we think about, you know, Europeans in the sense of coming into the UK being regarded, if you will, as international, you know, what are the sorts of things that us PCOs, destinations, suppliers can be thinking about in terms of helping them in, or where can we go and find out
Right.
about some guidance we can give them?
Right. Well, we've been working very closely with ABCO. In fact, we've been using ABCO as our coordinator in all things Brexit, and a lot of individual questions. And of course, many of the answers that we have to give relate to specifics. You can be very general, but then you find that many event organizers have got highly specific questions that they need to get answered relative to the event that they're organizing. But there's a lot of information on the .gov.uk website. ABCO has actually got now a very substantial schedule which answers many of the questions that ABCO members have made to ABCO. Those questions, incidentally, we work very closely with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport as our sponsoring department, and they've acted as a gateway to other government departments. Of course, a lot of the questions have to go to the Home Office in terms of immigration issues and routes to entry. The Treasury is involved in other areas, the Department of International Trade and the Business Department. So we've used DCMS as a gateway. We've got, I would have thought now, 75% of the responses have positively answered the questions. We're still waiting on other answers. But I did speak with Heather only this week and suggested that maybe we should now publish what we've got so people can trawl through that, and also the links to the websites. We've also got on the BVEP website, that's Business Visits and Events Partnership.com, a whole panel of answers to a whole list of questions. Right. On the right-hand side of the homepage, you've got Brexit guidance, which you can find out more about. But if you're coming from the EU and you're going to be here in the UK as a business traveller for less than 90 days, you don't need to worry about visas. You're coming as a visitor, and you can take part in various activities such as attending a conference or an exhibition.
Okay, well that's
so there's no problem there's really little change from what has happened in the past. The big change, of course, if you're going to come and actually work at an event, you may well require a work permit. Depending
and I think we're gonna delve into that in just one moment, if I may. But I suppose getting a bit more into the weeds, so to speak, and into the detail, there would appear to be some confusion about changes in legislation if association congresses are classed as commercial rather than educational. Can you explain that?
Well, the attendance at those events would still come under the visitor regime. So you wouldn't require any special permission to come in. It's whether if you're working at these events and they're commercial, then you technically do need a work visa.
Right, so I guess check the guidelines when it comes down to role as speaker, because if you're a speaker, as many delegates are at our congresses, their abstracts are submitted, they get a place, a spot to speak for 5 minutes. They don't get a fee for that. They're just really there to deliver education.
Yeah. If they're not being paid to speak, then they are just part of the visitor regime to come in.
Here comes another difficult question for you.
Excuse me having to drink water.
That's okay.
This is a very dry
Sure,
subject.
it's not a gin and tonic.
No, it's a dry subject, so I need to have
Keep
liquid.
going. Now, does this also have implications for exhibitors? Those without a work visa can undertake promotion on their stands. You know, they can talk about things, they can suggest things, but they can't actually sell on their stands. Now, is that right?
Well, it's a very grey area. The definition of selling given to us by DCMS, but not necessarily verified by the Home Office, is that selling needs to be a transaction where money changes hands. So if you actually promote on your stand, and as a result of that, the person who's visiting the stand likes what they see and places an order, right? That is not a sale that has been made until the transaction has been executed by the passing of cash or check or whatever. So if all you're doing is promoting your goods and taking orders, you are still, we believe, within the realms of just promoting. So if you then go back to Europe and then execute the order and arrange for a transfer of cash by bank transfer or whatever, you're still okay. Where this is going to become perhaps an issue is in consumer shows where they actually sell product off the stand with a cash register or a credit card machine and take the order. Then you are actually selling. But of course, if the people who are doing the selling are UK residents, then they'll be all right. It's where the company comes over from France or Italy and sells off the stand. But
so
I think
no olive oil on stands anymore in cash.
I think for most trade, I mean, the ideal home exhibition is, you know, will be a conundrum. But most commercial events, there's not going to be a problem.
Okay, and I think, you know, to be honest, I think most of our ABCO's members association congresses are, you know, business scientific type. So, but we must think about the wider picture.
Equally, where the business person is coming from overseas and is bringing their briefcase with them, and the briefcase has got within it samples. I don't think there will be any requirement to fill out a carnet or a customs declaration. Especially if those samples are going back to the place of origin where they've come from. It's where you are actually bringing over goods that you will actually leave behind, that you may well have to fill in a customs declaration form. And of course, those companies that are bringing in exhibition stands will also have to fill in a carnet now to get clearance for those exhibition stands.
So, but again, go back to the websites that you've already mentioned for details.
I think a lot of, to facilitate or to make this easier, using UK contractors to do the exhibition stands here will sort of get you through that. But of course, a lot of overseas companies use their exhibition stands all over the world. So they come to an event here and then they go to an event in Frankfurt and then to another one in Singapore using the same exhibition equipment. You would have anyway had to deal with carnet requirements going elsewhere. So this is just one more country you're going to have to do it in.
Okay. So thinking about the delegates coming in, the health, travel insurance, roaming charges, visas, and so forth. Is there anything, in your opinion, that would be considered a barrier to them coming in?
No, I mean we're both ways. You're going to have to confront now the new electronic travel authorization requirements. Both the EU and the UK will be introducing in the next couple of years ETAs, which
Yep.
people are probably quite familiar with when you go to the United States of America.
Sure.
These are not visas. They are merely an online authorization which says that the information you've provided gives you the okay to travel. You may well still be stopped at the point that you enter the country you're visiting and ask for further information. But it gives you that initial clearance. And we're working, I mean, it's going to cost something in the region of about 15 euros or maybe less. I think the UK government is talking about something like £7 to £10.
Okay, well, that sounds on the par.
So we will have to see how that works. It's not finalised yet. And we're trying to promote to the UK government that if they do introduce this, which I think they are definitely going to introduce, that we use the information for marketing purposes rather than it just being a database which is then put on the shelf. Yeah.
Any ideas on timeline on that coming in?
I think within the next 2 years. I think it's been delayed given that there are still many EU withdrawal agreement issues being seen through. I mean, we still don't have the full regime on the importation of goods, whether they be food or other equipment, because the UK did waive the requirement to do a lot of these things in order to make sure that there were no delays at the border. Yep. Even though there were delays at the border.
Okay, so I'm getting a little bit thornier now on the topic of VAT. Now, I believe there are still some outstanding questions with HMRC here. My understanding is that if European PCOs wish to take advantage of VAT reclaim on supplies for their congresses here in the UK, then they must register for VAT in the UK. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now, you need to be registered in the places where you want to deal with VAT. We still have the TOMS regime, although the UK government does have the right now to opt out of TOMS because it is a European programme, and the government did indicate within the EU withdrawal documentation it prepared prior to Brexit that it would consider the TOMS regime and consider actually removing it. However, the latest that I've heard, and TOMS is a very complex piece of accounting procedure, is that UK companies have indicated their wish to continue with TOMS being a more effective way of dealing with VAT than any other regimes. I mean, we have campaigned as an industry in the past to remove the business-to-business part of it, but at the moment we're still in TOMS. So I think a lot of event organisers continue to use TOMS or get round TOMS by getting the billing to go direct to the client and let the client sort the accounting out. Of course, if the client does it, the client uses their registration processes to reclaim the VAT.
Yep. Now, then, Michael, just to conclude, and I mean, we could go on for hours, couldn't we? I've got, a million questions I could ask you, but in the interest of
I'm
time,
pleased you haven't asked me about Northern Ireland.
No, we're not going to do that today. We'll save it for another day.
Or fisheries.
There are areas, I think, and I think you alluded to this earlier on, that still require further investigation by with DCMS, and I know that with ABCO, with others, with our venue colleagues, and with our destinations, there's much work going on just to try and get clarity for everybody. But right now, if ABCO members have got queries, should they just raise those queries to Heather and then up to you, or is it somewhere else?
No, I would go to Heather first because, as I say, Heather has got an abundance of information which may provide the answer readily. If Heather can't answer it, she will pass it through to our contacts at DCMS. She's dealing direct with DCMS. I'm getting copies of everything she's dealing with. DCMS are actually being very effective in getting back to us very quickly with a response. Where they know the answer, where they have to then go off and ask somebody else in the Department of Environment or the Department of Transport or the Department of or the Home Office, then it does take a little bit longer. But quite often the answer is already apparent and can be given quite quickly. So I'd use Heather in the first place. We'll get Heather to publish what she's got so far, together with several links that we have. Use the BVEP website, because that's got a lot of information on it. And we'll continue to pump out the information as we get it. But we do need specific questions. The generalities, we can point you in the right direction, but it's when people come up with some real humdingers, which nobody's ever thought of. And there is, I have to say, so much grey area here, because when we've talked to Home Office and Treasury, etc., about specifics in the events sector, they didn't even appreciate some of the vagaries that come up. You know, this whole question of promoting and selling on an exhibition stand was quite revelationary. And the whole concept of a not-for-profit event, I mean, they don't understand why anybody's organizing anything not-for-profit, you know.
Yes,
you know, they can't see that. And I'm sure that a lot of your colleagues and organisers,
and precisely the marketplace that we're in. So
absolutely.
In the main. But Michael, thank you so much. That's been super helpful.
It's a pleasure.
I know our members are going to take those away, and I have no doubt we can push them further into the BV website. And Heather, of course, who saves us in many ways, will be happy to answer members' questions on this challenging topic.
Yes. And can I say, overall, that, you know, people are really worried and concerned that this is going to damage their business prospects. I would approach this very positively. As I said at the very beginning, we have traded with the rest of the world with regulations and restrictions, and we have held many, many, many international events here in the UK, punching well above our market share weight. This is just another example where the EU, which was unfettered access, is now part and parcel of the rest of the world, and we will deal with it positively, and we will come out of it shining with more and more business. So, you know, I'm really
sure that will be the case. Concur on that. Thank you, Michael.
Pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye.